Now I want to talk about my power rankings at the mid-season point, right? We're halfway through the USFL season. It has gone by so quickly. But one thing has been constant from the jump. At number one, the Birmingham Stallions just remain consistent, finding different ways to win football games each and every week. They are the only undefeated team left in the USFL at 5-0, and there is no real recipe to how they are winning. They've done it with defense. They've done it running. They've done it passing. This time, they played what I thought was one of the better games that I've seen any USFL team play. They held the ball for 38 plus minutes. Jamar Smith came off the bench to have an outstanding day. I think he completed 75% of his passes for over 200 yards. And CJ Marable went over 100 yards rushing the same week that the Stallions signed former Alabama running back Bo Scarborough. Looking ahead, I expect Bo Scarborough to really get into this offense and into the run game, not unlike the way in which he was used to close out their win this past weekend. I also thought it was interesting that Coach Holtz thought that Scarborough was a guy they needed. It's interesting for an undefeated team to say we're still adding pieces, but you could see the physical element that he gives the Stallions, especially at the end of the game when they were trying to run the clock out against the Philadelphia Stars. Okay, number two on the list, the New Jersey Generals also played a really outstanding game against the Breakers, who I thought were a really great football team, and Jersey Generals have displayed, hey, look, we're pretty doggone good too, RJ. You also saw for the first time all season, Mike Riley go away from his two-quarterback system. He chose to start DeAndre Johnson, and because the pass rush was so good, and because defensive coordinator John Tatula was adamant about running man coverage and trying to come after the quarterback, Coach Riley made the decision to stick with DeAndre because of his ability to move in the pocket and complete passes down the field. They also ran for a ton of yards. They had great balance. Matter of fact, it's one of those things that Coach Riley was really ecstatic about in the postgame. Going, we were balanced running the ball. We were balanced passing the ball. That's what you want to see. And then they got a great defensive, two plays out of Shalom Mulawani, who had 2 interceptions in his first game back after missing 2. Really a great and complete game for the Generals, who look like the class of the North Division, but there's still half the season left to play. Number 3 on the list, I moved the Tampa Bay Bandits here. Todd Haley's Bandits were outstanding against the Michigan Panthers, 27-20 in their victory. They were able to stymie running back Reggie Corbin for just 28 rush yards on 12 carries. This is significant because in the previous week, Reggie Corbin had gone for 152 rush yards on just 12 carries. Outstanding defense called by Pepper Johnson, and really that entire defense has been playing really well. They have an authentic 3-4 where they get big and nasty up front. Those guys eat up blocks so that you have linebackers like Christian Sam and Greg Reeves who could run around making plays, and that's exactly what they did. As a matter of fact, Christian Sam is in the post-game press conference, and I asked him what he thought about Greg Reeves' play. He says, I don't even know why I'm sitting here. Greg was the dude that was balling out. He had a tip pass that ended up being an interception. He came up with a forced fumble late to secure the win for them. Outstanding play for the Tampa Bay Bandits, and it's nice to see Todd Haley really smiling and having a good time. As a matter of fact, Jordan Ta'amu made one of the fantastic plays of the weekend where it was a flea flicker to fly, got the pitch back, he fumbled the ball, he spun around, and he completed a pass to Derek Dillon that ended up going for 6. Todd Haley later said, it is the best play that I've ever seen. And that man's been coaching football for the better part of 25 years. Not bad for Jordan Ta'amu, who's been really one of the stalwarts of this league. I look around this league and I've seen quarterback changes everywhere, not at Tampa. He's held that job and they want him to hold that job. That's really, really good for them as they're trying to inch back into this conversation as perhaps the second team in the South Division to make the playoffs. Number 4 on the list, the New Orleans Breakers. It's the first bad game I've seen the Breakers play, which is saying a lot because they've been playing really well defensively and offensively. Kyle Sloter, after passing for 400 yards in the previous week, just couldn't find a rhythm. And there was a lot going on here. Number 1, Birmingham is humid and it's hot. So we saw a bunch of guys going down with cramps, specifically on the defensive line, a lot of stoppages in play. And that affected the Breakers offense, who likes to go fast. They like to go at warp speed. If you're a college football fan, you're familiar with what Josh Heupel does at Tennessee, with what Jeff Lebby and Lane Kiffin were doing at Ole Miss, and what you're probably going to see at Oklahoma, where they want to get on the ball and snap it and go to try to catch the defenses off guard. They weren't able to do that with penalties and with stoppages in play. Also add to that, they were without offensive coordinator Noel Mazzone, who usually is calling the plays, right? So Larry Fedora picked up a play card for the first time since he was offensive coordinator at Baylor in 2020, of all places. All those things seem to work against them in some way, shape, or fashion, but Coach Fedora refused to make any excuses. He said, look, I'm the head coach. It's on me. We got to be better. We got to do better. And I think they will. I think they retain this 4th spot. Number 5 on the list, Philadelphia Stars, coached by Bart Andrus, who really is making it happen without his number 1 pick at quarterback. You'll know that Brian Scott went out with injury a couple weeks ago. Case Cook has since relieved him. He went 19 of 35 for 191 yards. I didn't think that he looked great. I didn't think that he was able to find a rhythm. Coach Andrews is going, hey, I thought he played pretty well. I thought some of our receivers were not on the same page as him, and we have to fix that. But I also thought that Coach Andrews, once again, was showing just how much he has paid attention to the USFL rules and how comfortable he is with them. If there is a corollary between, say, Bill Belichick and sending out a tackle eligible, I think you're seeing that with Coach Andrus, which is interesting because he's the first coach to call and successfully convert a 3-point conversion. And then he had told his defense late in the game against the, who did they play? I'm looking at this again. Against the Generals. No, against Stallions. See? Had to think about it. Against the Stallions, to let them score because the Stallions were trying to run the ball out and run the clock out. But Andrew's saying that, hey, I told our defense 3 times, let them score. So much so that I sent the player in there and said, let them score. And I said, why would you want to do that? Because we get the ball back. We get the ball back, we go score. And with the USFL's unique rule, you could elect to go for it on 4th and 12 from your own 35 as opposed to onside kicking. You pick that up and then you go score again. All of a sudden you're back in this ball game, and a game that they lost by 13 is a game that they could have won by at least 14, if not more. Thought that was kind of cool, and I would have liked to have seen how that would have gone down, but the Stallions are really good at holding on to the ball. Number 6 on the list. I'm moving up to Pittsburgh Maulers. Okay. Emotional win. They found what I think is their quarterback in Vad Lee, and it was an excuse to really take a look at what they were doing and how they were doing. As a matter of fact, I love this quote that Vad Lee gave in the postgame. Just keep working. Don't quit. I was close to quitting so many times, but I'm here and I have nothing to lose. Those words, I think, could accurately describe the Pittsburgh Maulers franchise. You're playing with house money now. Nobody expects you to be any good. So go out there and play with everything you have and see where you end up at the end. And I think if they can put together something like a winning streak, it wouldn't be long before we have to talk about the Maulers perhaps getting that 2nd spot in the North Division. Very excited to see what lies ahead for Kirby Wilson in his first season as a head coach pro football. Number 7, I have the Michigan Panthers. Shea Patterson played his behind off. He had a 300-yard passing performance, found his 5-star form, was getting some great play from his receivers, really moving around well. We saw Paxton Lynch wasn't even in pads for this game, so Shea didn't have to think about whether or not he was going to get the hook. It's just whether or not these guys were able to finish games in the way that so many have either failed to or been able to. And I want to lead into the Houston Gamblers by saying that at number 8. The Panthers and the Gamblers have played great football, and they've been in every game that they have played. It's just been heartbreaking at the end, right? Either you had a kicking issue or you gave up a late touchdown, one thing or another. The margins have been so small in this league, and that's one of the reasons that I enjoy it. The competition is right there. As a matter of fact, Coach Riley said it in his post-game presser when they beat the New Orleans Breakers. He's like, look, it's really difficult to gauge whether or not you're good because everybody you play is pretty good. And we thought the Breakers were really good. We're going to take a lot from this win, but 1 through 8, every one of these teams can beat you. It's just what can you do at the end of the games that ultimately decides it. Thanks for watching this video. And remember, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any other videos on the #1 Ranked Show YouTube channel.